administration's cybersecurity review. This is AP News. A big birthday. It's 100 for the man who played the 2,000-year-old man.
I beat 2000 October 16th.
In the documentary, Mel Brooks, the 99-year-old man, Brooks said he was born to make people laugh.
Work.
His movies are classics like Young Frankenstein. There's The Producers, Blazing Saddles, and Spaceballs, to name a few.
I took the 9-to-5 dreadful job just to pay the rent. But you love what you do.
The American Film Institute just named Brooks' Blazing Saddles the funniest film of all time. I'm Ed Donahue. The latest through the weekend at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
This is AP News Minute. The Iran war could still spin out of control despite the U.S. reaching an interim deal to try to agree on a final accord. AP correspondent Julie Walker reports.
Iran launches new attacks, a drone assault targeting Bahrain and against a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, likely Tehran's response to overnight airstrikes by the U.S. Those were in response to an Iranian drone attack Thursday on a ship trying to get out of the strait.
The death toll from Wednesday's back-to-back earthquakes in Venezuela has shot up to more than 1,400 people. On state TV, acting President Delcy Rodriguez told Venezuelans they are not alone and are receiving help from all over the world. Temperatures continue to soar in parts of Europe. The Czech Republic suffered through more than 105 degrees Fahrenheit on Saturday. Outside of Berlin, Germany, the concrete burst in two places on the Autobahn. I'm Donna Water. This is AP News Minute. Continued airstrikes could bring
You're listening to KGO and Karen Schedule. Wave 105.1 the talk about versus media radio.
The Constitution is America's foundational document that every U.S. citizen should know. It establishes rights, responsibilities, and governmental roles. This knowledge isn't just for politicians, but for us as everyday Americans. Citizens need to understand what the Constitution says and what it doesn't say, because it protects our unalienable rights no one can take away or infringe. Without knowledge of our constitutional rights, we'll fail to realize when they are violated.
Liberty. It's an American thing. From AmericanThing.org.
All right, let's see how we can help you out. I know that things are starting to settle down in Route 10, where Route 4 and Route 10 at that intersection. Contractor crews working at various locations within the intersection throughout the week. Intermittent lane closures in both directions are expected. Again, we should start to see some of that slow down and they put all of their equipment away. Striping work at 14th Forest and Route 10 intersection, and then also the route sensor installation at Route 15 on the Route 10 intersection. And then also there are there's some construction going on Highway. So expect some delays there. Again, it should be settling down as we are now 5 minutes after 4 p.m. on Cross Island Road. That work is set to continue all the way until September 21st. Once again, happy to move forward on this Monday afternoon. That's Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive today. Call them up 470 Auto Leader in the Trey on their website at GuamAutospot.com.
Introducing the all-new Subway Wrap. Ready to make any fun on the wrap. Light, delicious, and satisfying without weighing you down. Subway Wraps make feeling your day easier than ever with bold flavors and fresh ingredients. So, cheesy garlic steak wrap today. Subway. Eat fresh, feel good. Hungry, and eat fast. Mom's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Plus members can enjoy a free distinction Subway sandwich with awesome minimum sum of $30 gas at any Guam Mobile Station. Available exclusively on See store for details. Every 16 seconds, an American receives a cancer diagnosis, and every minute of every day, another person loses their life to cancer. That's why Stand Up to Cancer has set a bold goal to make early-stage detection an essential part of standard of care for all cancers. So often, if cancer is detected early, the chance of long-term survival is 90%. So if we all support cancer research, more than 2 million lives can be saved in the next decade. So join the mission to help save lives today at standuptocancer.org.
The road to Abilene is in full swing. We recently spoke with Democrat candidates Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Senator Tina Maria Barnes to learn more about their vision for Guam. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 26th on the Wave 105 Speakers Channel. This is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
And welcome back. We appreciate you tuning in to Wave 105 to BrightSide. We do want to thank our sponsors, Billy Swimming Bar, memory of happening. Micro Pack for sound tech and everything in between. Think Micro Pack. Subway, you got to refresh the defense. Triple J, don't forget Triple J Ford. They hook you up with that free $500 gas card when you drive home with an import truck. Visit triplejguam.com and get pre-approved instantly. And PCA, we start with you. And so we're starting this 4 o'clock hour with Senator Sean Gumatautau and former director, former chief of police, and former director of DOVA, Fred Bergalio, right? Yeah. And so a lot of us know who you are, but maybe we can just start, just to be fair, for our audience members that may have never heard of who you are or what you do. I definitely want to give you the opportunity to share, or maybe something that you think our audience doesn't know about you.
Sure. First off, thank you, Pauly and Ray, for allowing me a chance to be on your show. And I think I joined a very small group of people that have served in all 3 branches of our government of Guam. I've served in the executive branch under former Governor Felix Camacho as Deputy Chief of Staff. I was the Director of Policy for the Judiciary of Guam back in 2017, I think it was. And here I am as a member of the 38th Guam Legislature and running for re-election. And I love soccer. I have 5 kids. I live in Lucas, California, and just here to continue that work of creating common sense policy to help everybody.
Understood. And Director?
Okay, and with me, I know, as you mentioned, I was the Department of Corrections Director. I was the Executive Director for the Guam Veterans Affairs, but I was also retired Chief of Police of the Guam Police Department. Served 29 years with the Guam Police, started as a patrolman back in 1986. And
the Marine Corps.
Yeah, in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marines. Served 7 years. I was in corrections and a recruiter in Louisiana, because that's where the Tabasco sauce was at. And at the same time, while I was in the Guam Police Department, I joined the NR-120 Navy Reserves. I was a Naval Security Officer, and then I also joined later on after finishing that the 368 Military Police Radio Brigade Army U.S. Army Reserves, and had a stint there. But I'm from Santa Rita. My wife is a retired teacher. We raised 4 of our children. I have 10 grandchildren right now, and I also, like, as Ryan likes music, I was a former band member of 1015 with George.
My favorite album is the Tomorrow album. Yes. Yeah. Let's just start with you, Chief. Let's assume that the 39th Guam Legislature, the Democrats take over. I know that's not going to, Senator Sean's not happy about that, but let's assume that happens. I assume that you would like to have oversight on some of the committees like public safety and maybe Veterans Affairs. But again, I'm only assuming, so I wanted to ask you.
You're right about that. If we were to get the majority, I worked in the Republican administration. Governor Eddie Calvo appointed me as chief of police. He had his trust in me to run the department for 4.5 years. So I worked closely with a lot of Republican leaders, in that administration. And so I'm willing to also, even if we get the majority, to have some inclusion in Republican representatives in the Committee on Public Safety, because you get well-balanced ideas from both sides. So the campaign is over with, and it's what's best for the people who want, especially when it comes to public safety, emergency management, homeland security. One of the things not too many people, while I was chief of police, I was the first tomorrow to be selected for the graduate program of the Naval Postgraduate School. And that opened my eyes, and that gave me a large network I can leverage, as a senator in public safety, because there was some early talk about how some senators can reach out to who they network with, especially off island. And when going through the geopolitical tensions, I've worked with as a military veteran and also as a graduate of the Pacific Center for Security Studies and the Naval Postgraduate School and the FBI Executive Leadership School. I have more than enough network to look at what some of the best practices are, to ensure our people are safe.
And Senator, I wanted to give you the opportunity to share if you continue to keep the majority. Are these the committees that you already oversee, the ones that you want to continue to oversee? And what still needs to happen in these agencies to be effective?
Yeah, actually, I would like to continue as the chairman of public safety, emergency management, and the Guam National Guard. I believe that there is a lot of work that needs to be continued. I think for me personally, I think that, and because the chief had served as the chairman of the Police Officer Standard and Training Commission, Post Commission, I'd like to make sure that at some point, the core structure plan that was started in this term is completed. I think the current executive director, John Lozano, my former boss at the judiciary, has done a fantastic job to kind of start the process. This allows the entirety of our public safety officers, from a pay point of view, structure point of view, once and for all. I mean, we cannot keep going down a road of hodgepodging our way through and saying, okay, I think we really want to give a raise here, don't give a raise there. To me, public safety needs to be prioritized, and this particular plan is one of those pathways. I know, maybe nurses that are hearing this, teachers that are hearing this, I think those that have all been under other public laws have already gone through this process. But our public safety agencies, they're specialized, trained, they have an important responsibility in our community. And it started in the last couple of months. It's going to take 18 months to complete. So I want to make sure it gets done to its finality, and our public safety agencies will once and for all be able to have a plan that they can call their own. And these folks that want to pursue a career will have a chance to be able to say, hey, listen, I know that my career has some kind of good salary at the end of it or structure. I want to be part of it.
And to be fair, I believe the speaker is allowed, or maybe it's just already within the rules, right, that the committee chairperson gets to choose who is in their committee. So,
yes,
Democrats.
Yeah, and I will say that I have the smallest committee on purpose.
Okay.
There's 5 members: myself, the speaker, vice speaker, Senator and Ranking Member Tina Barnes, and Senator Sabrina Salas-McCanani. With 5 people, it's the minimum that we could use to call everybody together to get work done. And I will say that, at least in my case, when we have our mock-up meetings, they come, we talk about the policies in front of us. Our teams work together. It's super efficient. And by the way, I'm not doing it by e-vote or whatever. I'm having my staff hand carry the actual, to sign off on the bills. They're going to each office and making sure the old-fashioned way. I feel that there's been part of it that's been missing in our branch of government, and just trying to bring that back. And so far, so good.
Okay. And I asked our last 2 guests, Lillian Guerrero and also Joe Ariola, why decide to run? I mean, Senator Chong Witauta, the 38th Guam legislature, we can argue that they are doing, they're providing movement. They're creating policy. Is there something that the 38th Guam legislature did that you saw, you know what, I need to get in there because I'm not happy? Or maybe there's something else that you want to focus on?
Well, there's some big major reforms that I think I have my eye on. I'm part of the Criminal Justice Review Committee, and I meet with the Justice there, Judge Kwan, and other attorneys that are in that committee. That was an idea from Senator Santos Jr., and we reviewed some of these laws that are outdated. I'll just give you one example. They wanted to do a definition of a pretrial detainee, and the definition that came up, and I wasn't there the commission to see that definition. A pretrial detainee is someone who is under the custody of the Department of Corrections. And I know, because I worked in corrections in the military, right? Definition of a pretrial detainee is someone who hasn't had their day in court, who is waiting, just like in the military, hasn't been court-martialed, fully went to the adjudicator. When you start bootstrapping it, because I live with a family of attorneys. My brother Mike is a federal judge. My other brother Rick is an attorney for Mormons. And my dad was an attorney. And when we look at how a law like that is bootstrapped to define it under the custody of an agency, what stops that? You're going to say, oh, detaining someone in the custody of DYA. And I think we have to really look at how, as lawmakers, to really define these kind of, the constructs of this particular concept of what a pretrial detainee is, because the way our correctional system is, it's that we're operating in Guam is something that needs to be changed. You can't put a pretrial detainee together with convicted inmates. In the military, the bricks are separated. Fort Leavenworth is where the convicted military prisoners are. And in the States, the detainees are held by county sheriffs and police, and the convicted ones are at the state penitentiaries and prisons. The consultant who was part of this master facility plan had indicated, and I talked to them, had indicated that the research team from corrections went out and looked at county jails. But their plan was to build a new prison. So if you're going to look at a new prison or penitentiary, you would visit penitentiaries in Georgia and prisons where the convicted people are, not looking at county jails. That's an issue that's really, and I promised the men and women of the Department of Corrections from the Operations Security, I'm going to keep that amplified and to bring it to complete the process of those kind of reforms that are needed.
That's an ongoing issue. I think that's been on our radar for years now. A new facility, right? And so, Senator Sean, I mean, when we're looking at finances and we're just trying to make sure that agencies stay within their means, how do we do that and then also find more money for capital improvement?
That's a great question, and that's where our budgets are kind of centered on. And I think that from this legislature's point of view, and from a policy point of view, the branch of government wants to see new prison constructed. And this is not even a slight to the chief, but it really takes the executive branch to have that priority to say, okay, we are going to go down this road. We can't work separately. The policy set, it has to be done. And if it's not done, that's fine too. But at some point, there's going to be an executive that's going to say, okay, this is what I want to do. If it's not the priority of the current administration, perhaps if the next governor of Guam will prioritize the construction of the prison. The legislature is there to provide the financing, they're there to provide the policy, and the policy direction. So we're hoping that either in the final 6 months of the term or with the new governor, that a new prison, at least the effort to build it, will actually move forward.
Because I've been following the public hearings, it looks like, at least with the 38th Guam legislature, you are in agreement with phases.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because as the plan that Steve mentioned, it was done in this term, and so we're just trying to execute on the plan. There might be a disagreement with how the plan is executed, but it's got to get done, and just when. And it does. It goes sometimes beyond, as from my experience in the executive branch. It does a director might say, sure, I want to go down this road, but you cannot do it without the governor of Guam. The governor of Guam's signature is going to be on the documents. The governor of Guam is going to help push that forward. It's going to lead the effort. So, again, it's going to need the executive branch to move ahead.
And again, understanding that you're also looking at these public safety agencies, right?
Yeah.
I imagine even your policies will align with that.
Yes, because, we want if there's going to be a new prison, we want to be aligned with what the Modernization Act says. If it's in conflict with the law, because Senator Joseph Augustine authored the Modernization Act, and the governor signed into law, and everything written in there was about rehabilitation. So in that context, it was really meant to be a new prison. What the facility plan is, that was only done in 8 months. There was a certain former senator debating me, telling me, oh, that was years of planning. No, it only took 8 months. And after COVID, the consultants finally made it to Guam, and in 8 months suggested a jail/prison, meaning they're going to close the Hagana detention and move everybody up to Manila. And I don't think the 4,000 registered voters of Manila are all well informed that they're going to make a combined prison and jail up there in Manila in phases. Cutting down post 5, where there's the most dangerous, almost like post 6, your individuals, most dangerous convicted individuals there, tearing down the minimum amount and bringing them to the RSAT building where the substance were behavioral, and closing that program down while construction is going on. So, and that's written in the plan where it indicates that. But one thing I saw on the SWOT analysis, the Strength, Weakness, Opportunities, and Threats, on that SWOT analysis, it indicated from the security staff, we have detainees there, and the staff were worried about what are detainees doing up there. You have 300 detainees. Another concern which UG students brought up is, what are women doing there? That's not a public school up there, co-ed. It's supposed to be a prison, and in the States, women are in different detention facilities. They're not in an area where all men. So we currently have, it went from 60, from what I last heard, there's 80 women up there, right? And they're all in one area, both convicted women and women detainees, and they're surrounded by 700 men. And if any emergency thing happened and any of those women got hurt, Guam will be in the news because what are women doing? Why is Guam having a co-ed type of, incarceration facility?
Understood. And then regarding police, but I would also say just any agency has difficulty keeping their vehicles on the street, right? And so how are we going to, what policies can we think of? Because I don't necessarily know if the legislature can demand that DPD puts together like a carpool or whatnot. I think that's the executive branch that can decide.
There was an idea when I was in DPD, and I was sure I remember an idea came up. Honolulu Police Department has their officers invest in the vehicle themselves, and they're given a card that they can take, but it has to be used only for police operations. They take it home. When I was in traffic investigations, we take the vehicle home because we could be activated in traffic investigation, and we could take the patrol car with us home and park at our garage, and then when a fatality happened or a serious crash, we just respond straight in unmarked vehicles too.
Because the issue, correct me if I'm wrong, is maintenance, right? We don't have enough mechanics. They're in the shop, and it's usually a private business that takes these vehicles, right?
But also, Pauly, we can't grant ourselves a fleet every year or 2 years. So I have a policy I'm working on to set aside, basically, is to put public safety agencies in the first position for the qualifying certificate program. So if you heard at the confirmation hearing for Tina Garcia, they're saying, okay, I'm excited about the QP programs, opportunities. So if that's the case, it would make, stand to reason that there's such interest in Guam in terms of the economic development and folks that are pursuing the qualifying certificate program. Let's move public safety agencies into the first position. Now, okay, granted, the
thought was first position now.
Right now, it's healthcare.
Okay.
And so it's like, okay, that's great. It served its purpose. We have nurses now we didn't have before. And again, I'm not trying to fight nurses, but for far too many years, we just don't have a funding source for our public safety agencies. So using the QC program might be that one idea. Now, initially the thought was, okay, if you're going to build a high-rise hotel in Tucson, then you need to fund the actual apparatus that's going to go and put out a fire.
Right.
But then as we started to look at it a little bit more, we have solar companies that are actually building farms in right now across Island Road. There's a plan to do one in Denado. But if you heard in the public hearing, if you try to put out a battery fire related to a solar farm, you can put it in a swimming pool and the thing will not go out. So you need you got to pay for the specialized training for our firefighters, our public safety, the folks that are doing this work, to be able to allow them to get the answers they need. That's why I came up with that idea, and I'm hoping after the budget session's over, I believe we should have that bill in front of us, I think right after the budget session. But it's important. We've got to find it. We just can't keep granting ourselves a fleet of cars. Because you buy 20 vehicles now with Department of Interior money, 2 years of vehicles, as the chief mentioned, unless they're going to really take care of it themselves, it's become much more problematic to take care of over time.
Somebody just said, Viva Senator Sangamatata, Miss Bennett.
Oh, thank you, Auntie Bennett. She listens to your show, doesn't she? And I listen to you. Thank you, Auntie Bennett. Appreciate you.
Well, okay, so Dr. Ron McNinch was on earlier, and he says, you know what he feels is not happening with the current legislators is you're not negotiating or you're not communicating well with the federal government. And maybe that's the military, maybe that's Congress. And so how do we have productive conversations or even just get them to come over? I watched the informational hearing that took place. There was 2 of them, and nobody from Joint Region Mariana showed up for them.
See, let me answer that. I can answer first.
Yeah.
No, I will share this with you. I think it is a whole different approach.
Okay.
I am working with federal agencies. I'm working on trying to get the Guam State and visa waiver program to add the Republic of the Philippines to the actual law. Now, remember, we are, like, you can consider state policymakers with Dr. McNinch, and all due respect to Dr. McNinch. That's what we have a congressman for. That's what we have a governor on the executive branch side. I served as federal policy advisor to Governor Felix Camacho, but a lot of the issues that he talks about are executive branch functions. They are not. I can't. And we used to argue with former Senator Bob Cliffy all the time. He's like, oh, well, we want to use that money from combat get back to take care of these things. Like, you can't appropriate what Congress is appropriating. So policymakers, we know our role. I know mine. And obviously, that's why I'm wanting to get reelected, is to be able to find ways to look at the local issues. Those are issues that the executive branch can handle. If you want me to call John Reeves and say, hey, Admiral, come on down, he's going to look at us and say, well, I already had the dialogue with the executive branch, and I'm going to continue that. That's because the federal government, or DOW, that's an executive branch function of the president.
Understood. You have a different perspective?
Well, I heard Dr. Ron McNinch talk about that. And, I'll just tell you there's an example of how I would work also as a senator, too, is that, when the caning bill came up, right, that got me like all of a sudden, hey, someone needs to speak up because the United States is a signatory to human rights. So I wrote to the White House, right, and I'm not even a senator, and I got a response from President Biden that the criminal justice system is not perfect. The American criminal justice system isn't perfect. But that's a response from the White House. Someone can try to water it down and say, well, maybe it's not President Biden writing that, but it's already in history right now. And even Adler was saying, individuals Adler said, wow, President Adler got a response from President Biden on an issue, a legislative issue that was going to be heard, on the floor, that was going to be heard among people about caning of prisoners, right? That issue. Second thing, too, is, I am the kind of person, too, who, when I was researching, Virgin Islands had an evidence, facility. It was purchased by, Department of Interior funding. So I contacted, at the time, the chairman was Senator Adolfo Palacios, and then we worked with Madeline Verdana, we worked with Governor Cabo, a team approach, and the Department of Interior funded this new evidence facility that we see now in Jigo. Governor Liu's administration tried to go further, right? But it just starts with an idea of, hey, who could we write to? Another third example is down up at the Superior Court in Agani, I was wondering, because we need space, additional confinement space, an idea about where we could put the women. The Red Cross building sits there. I was talking to Lieutenant Governor Josh Boone, and he goes, when he was the court administrator, he wanted to try to approach Red Cross and say, hey, they want to put their probation officers there because why is that building still there? And a lot of things, there's threats against the courts. There could be is additional challenge that we have to protect individuals in that building. But what I did is I wrote to Red Cross, right? And I got a response from them to their national leadership, wrote back to me and said, we want to explore that idea with you, Director Brigante, about the possibility of the Red Cross. And it's just communication. It's just what we could do. Now, when I earlier said I can leverage the networks I have, then I'm serious about that. If I see some things that affect public safety, homeland security, it's a matter of having using the same channels. I went up to, when I was running with Governor Gutierrez, I went up to Washington, D.C., and met with Auntie Madeline when she was the congressman, when they were talking about the radiation survivors. Robert Celeste was up there, Senator Bruce Giovanni. So Washington, D.C. used to be my stomping grounds when I was stationed in Quantico, and I know a lot that if we have to reach out to in the Correctional Leadership Association, they said that if there's any issues too, I'm a member of that too, that we could reach out to them, and it's about lobbying sometimes and communicating with the right federal officials.
And Pauly, just an extension of that. Yeah. So just to go back on the visa waiver. So one of the great things about being the chairman of the Republican Party of Guam, I have the access to the political side of the RNC. And they understand the issue of how important the visa waiver is for Guam. So with that said, if folks understand, there's an intergovernmental office of the White House. They have intergovernmental offices across all the executive branch agencies. So I probably undersold the idea that a state lawmaker can engage. We can, but obviously it's a different boat when you think about my role as chairman. But also sometimes issues like, maybe we can't get the waiver, or maybe you're looking at it differently. That's going to be a congressional act. That's where the congressman comes involved. But the idea is we have a Republican in the White House. We have a Republican majority. Are you listening to Republican lawmakers in Guam? Well, I can tell you right now, I believe they are. And the RNC and the White House is listening. And so, but it's baby steps, because right now, the relationship between the Trump White House and, say, Republicans on Guam, it's a little bit different the second go around. I guess it was better. And it's not great at all the time, but it is still pretty good. That's not that bad, actually.
Understood. You got one too, Director Viva Fred. Vote for smart people. We can take phone calls. We'll take this break, and then on the other side, open the lines, right? 671-922-1051, 922-1051. We'll take the break, and then we'll also give you another look at traffic and see how things are out there on the roadways. This is the Bright Side on Wave 105.
Turn us on and turn up the online dialogue. When 105 is Guam, when under the Constitution, America is a republic. The First Amendment secures our ability to create our political laws by protecting our rights to religion, assembly, press, petition, and speech. We're the only country born in the idea that people must be free to pursue their happiness, unlimited by the government. This has kept us as one nation under God through 2.5 centuries of peaceful transition of power. The United States is at the top of the world today, but the graveyard history is full of the remains of once mighty empires. Will our republic degenerate into an oligarchy as Rome did 2,000 years ago, or is the best yet to come for the land of the free? Jefferson warned how peace leaders delivered into rule and government to gain ground. This process is not impossible. The future of America depends on our support for the principles of the Constitution. It's an American thing.
Liberty. It's an American thing. From AmericanThing.org.
Introducing all new Subway wraps. Now you can make any fun on the wrap. Light, delicious, and satisfying without weighing you down. Subway wraps make making your day easier than ever with bold flavors and fresh ingredients. Try the cheesy garlic steak wrap today. Subway. Eat fresh, play good.
We're stepping up to the throwdown today to look at a popular tavern game that had to be defended in a court of law just to survive. Welcome to the National Day Spotlight for June 29th.
In 1908, an English pub owner named Jim BrightSide found himself in court over a dartboard. At the time, the law banned games of chance in places that served alcohol, and apparently someone looked at darts and said, "Yep, that's gambling." BrightSide disagreed strongly, so he brought in a local darts champion named William Bigfoot Aniston to prove the point. Right there in the courtroom, Aniston set up a board and asked the judge to name a target. The judge called out, "Double 20. Aniston stepped up and hit it. Not once, not twice. 3 times in a row. At that point, the judge had seen enough. The charges were dismissed, and darts earned its place as a game of skill. On National Darts Day, we celebrate a little pub game that walked into court as a question mark and walked out with legal bragging rights.
Well, it is a game of skill. To pick anything and hit it 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
No.
It's a game of skill. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, but, that people thought it was gambling, I think is interesting. We are also celebrating National Camel Day and National Almond Butter Crunch Day. I'm Alice Anderson.
And I'm Ron Anderson with National Day Calendar, reminding you to celebrate every day.
If you're looking for world-class website hosting at a fair price, Pair Networks is your best choice. Founded in the early days of the web and still going strong today, Pair Networks now hosts over 150,000 websites for its demanding customers worldwide. Setting the standards for excellence, Pair Networks has a technical and support staff that's second to none. A highly stable company with top-of-the-line technology, Pair Networks offers total reliability and flexibility for your website, and even a money-back guarantee. Whether you're a professional web designer or a beginner just getting your site online, Pair Networks has a web hosting plan that's right for you. Make the move today. Log on and learn more at pair.com. That's PAIR.com. Pair Networks. World-class web hosting at a fair price. Visit us at pair.com. Pair Networks.
So here's one of the details who is not led by National and trying to check the local laws. And we hope you look forward to seeing the game tonight. So goodbye, Mr. Suba.
All right, looking at my own gander, this is a long crowd back here. I still don't see too many issues on the roadways yet. I know things are trying to wrap up once we get into the 5 o'clock hour. Things will start to get busier, especially on Route 1. Obviously, your major intersections, especially on Route 1, where 4 and 10 meet, and where 8, 10, and 16 meet, the prime intersection. Just, cautious as you head towards those intersections, but there are just minor delays. There's more traffic over by Route 10 than by the airport, and that's always congested around this time, being that you have to deal with 1, 2, 3 traffic lanes, right? And once you get through one, there's still another one ahead of you until you get back onto 1. So other than that, things don't look too bad for you on this Monday afternoon. Helping you move forward again, that's Tom Autospot. Call them up, 478 Auto. View their inventory on their website at autospot.com.
A message from Joshua Jackson, actor and fair volunteer ambassador.
Food allergy is a serious, life-threatening disease that impacts over 33 million Americans. When your immune system sees certain food proteins as a threat, every bite matters. But here's the good news. There have been advancements in the treatment of food allergies, and with one voice, we can create better awareness. Because in the fair community, the disease doesn't own us. We own our journey. Talk to an allergist to understand your options. Visit foodallergy.org/empower to learn more.
Hungry and eat gas? Mobile's got you covered. Now through July 31st, Mobile Smiles app members can enjoy a free 6-inch Subway sandwich with every minimum fill of $30 gas at any one Mobile station. Available exclusively on the mobile app. It's an easy service. Open the app and enjoy the rewards. Not a member yet? Pick up a Mobile Smiles card at any mobile location and register to fill. Mobile and Subway, a great deal for the summer. See store for details.
Come to you in that home. There you go. The traffic light. This is wave 105.1 FM. The closest media radio station. welcome back. Viva Lunes, it's Monday. Viva. We have somebody on the line, right? It's ready to ask a question to the candidate. What's your name? Oh, is it John?
Yeah.
All right. Call back. Yeah. 671-922-1051. Senator Changa Matata is on with us.
Good afternoon, Pauly.
Today, for just a few more minutes. Right? And so let's talk about procurement. Some people say it's not broken, it's management. And we need people in the agencies to be better trained. And I know that there's a whole training process that goes on at GCC. I've been hearing more and more at the public hearings who is on what section and how many more they have to go to. But Senator Sean, I mean, when you that's a big one with agencies, right? When we see
procurement's been an issue since I first joined government back in 2003, so it hasn't really changed. But it is a lot more modern. It's actually, as a guy who came from the private sector, I was running my small business with my wife, Trish, who's listening right now, my wife of 30 years. For businesses, we had to work with the government. Procurement is there, it works. It just sometimes when we think about, depending on how much the number is, what the product is, the service, it's just different.
Well, Director Fred's right here, right? And so sometimes we run out of time. The fiscal year ends, and we were trying to get you more money or let you keep money, but we couldn't because we ran out of through procurement. It's still stuck in procurement.
And I was just going to share real quickly on the budget side, we found that agencies are doing it too late. Can you load up everything in September, maybe it's a change of culture, so that on October 1 they can basically push the button and let somebody else be in trouble for not executing on, say, purchase orders with the Department of Corrections, GPD, the fire department. That's what we, in our pre-budget meetings, we're finding that it's just having to change that culture just a little bit.
Because I'll tell you this, being in the military, the Marine Corps, actually, the Army Reserves and the Navy Reserves, we would find out training, why are we having this training? Because of some budget issues, Department of Defense budget issues. But when I was in the Guam Police Department, the 29 years that I was there, as I was climbing to the ranks, I was assigned to the administrative division of the department, right? Where now I was working together with Kathy Tyron and GPD's budget, then later on became the chief of police, right? During the Calvo-Tenor administration. But one thing that really prepared me, and because I'm as a candidate for senator, is I went to school and I got a bachelor's in public administration and a master's in public administration from the University of Guam. And I remember going through the finance and accounting, classes and stuff of the budget and the School of Business and Public Administration. At the business side, we have to take some of those business courses.
Because BJ Cruz is saying that they're not doing it at UNC.
Yes, I heard BJ Cruz say that. But one of the things, too, that was noticeable, too, is that the Department of Administration would always hold, and this is for grants, right? Because about those millions of dollars on returning grant funding back, right? That not only do we have to, because I was not only managing grants, I have to be, I'm a certified grant researcher, so I know that when it comes down to this performance-based budgeting, everything, that's how grants are too. If you don't follow what the outcomes are going to be, and it doesn't show that kind of thing, that takes place, the execution of that work was used during the budget hearings, then all of a sudden, you lose the grant. For general funding kind of thing, and I mentioned this in the hearing, right? General funding, if there's over-appropriations, right? And you over-appropriate, just like that's what BBMI, I was having conversations. How do I lose the lax fund? Well, if they over-appropriated, then you lost that lax fund and stuff and all that, right? And we have to go back to, well, where's that technology where you can track that before you even make an appropriation as a senator and tap that funding? Identify the funding source, right? And if it's general funding, you want to make sure no one has already appropriated that already, right? And that's basic government financing 101 that I took when I was over at the university.
Understood. Stevie's on the line. Operate Stevie. Hopefully they're still there. No? Operate Stevie, you're on the air with Senator Sean and Director Fred.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to speak. But before anything else, I guess I want to extend my condolences to the family of the legend, Chief of Police Steven C. Ignacio. There's only several things that I want to ask. One thing, I've been lobbying for the construction of the Public Facility Act of 2005 under 5GC Chapter 59. That's been an unfunded mandate, empty promises that the senators have passed and was just signed by the governor at that time. I know there's a plan to build the headquarters. Building the headquarters is for GPD. That law itself is not just for GPD, but for DOC, Guam Customs, Guam Fire Department, and Department of Law. It's supposed to be situated in one building. So I'm not sure if that law is still going to be sitting collecting dust. If not, then introduce a bill to repeal it. Because what it is, it's just a law that's just pissing people off. Because those are just empty promises, unfunded mandate, like the Title 12 Chapter 83, the Guam 21st Century Healthcare Center Act that's not being followed, how to build a hospital. But besides that,
Steve, can you just make it pointed because I don't have a lot of time with them.
Okay.
And they need to answer your first question.
No, effectively, it's just that, before the chief passed away, right, I had a conversation with him. He was so excited to show me a project, the Peace Memorial Project in Aganya.
Yeah.
I believe that's locally funded, so if you cannot honor him by naming the Jubilee headquarters under his honor, under his name, is this a possibility that the Guam legislature or the governor's office can at least name that project if it is locally funded and it takes durable to name it in honor of the Chief Steven Ignacio? He was hoping the project would be done by May 15th, which is also his birthday.
Thanks, Steve.
May 15th, okay.
Thanks for the call. Okay, so
I
two questions, right?
Yeah, that thing about the GP headquarters, let me just say that when I was chief of the police, right, I did approach Governor Kyle one time, right, and I said, we're paying rent to the airport, all this rent, fire department was paying a lot of rent, right, and to reduce that expense, maybe there could be, and this is where the idea of how a school could be repurposed, right, and the idea was Chief Brody. And I'll tell you this, I know Governor Kyle is listening is going to say, I told Fred, now you're thinking like you're on current with Adelaide, how Adelaide now has the governor's offices, right? But, there was some resistance. There's going to be resistance because, of course, what do you do with that tradition of those people who have been attending Chief Brody, right?
It's now vacant.
Now it's vacant. See, there's the irony of it, right? But I approached Governor Kyle at the time to say that with all the rent, we could pay the rent to GDOE and use the money. GDOE could use that money towards students and buying them laptops and everything else. And, divert and allocate that, right? Because a whole bunch of government Guam agencies at the time were paying rent to the airport and other areas, right? Just for the leasing of government.
And the second question, would you vote on a bill that would name either the headquarters or the Peace Memorial after Chief Steven?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then I wanted to give you this.
Let me start with the second question first, because I'm sitting with a chief of police. Your father was a former chief of police. This great man who served that role. I'm not taking away anything from Chief Ignacio. And I believe that naming of a facility, I think right now, everyone is saddened by him. But I will take his lessons he taught me in my short time, in my 18 months as a senator. I'm not for building a police headquarters at this time.
Okay.
Because Chief Ignacio wanted to build a Jigo police center. Okay. He argued the best for community policing, over 25,000 plus calls, if I'm not mistaken, in the Jigo and Northern precinct, or Northern area. And that cost $6 million. They already have a design from the Agate precinct. The area in Jigo is very small. The cut and paste, put that in there. I think he made the best argument that right now he wasn't a very selfish person, at least in my recollection. He advanced a major issue that started with Chief Bergalio in terms of the whole setup that's in Jigo. When you put the Jigo precinct together with what's happening in Jigo today, there's a lot of GPD assets that are going to be in that northern village. And the northern district or northern Guam needs a precinct. Headquarters can wait a bit. Stephen might be right. You just repeal it. But there's a lot of laws in the books right now that could possibly be repealed. If we keep looking at it back in 2005, we did not move fast enough. I was at the executive branch at the time. There was no appetite to move. But I just gave my fairness to Steve. Chief Ignacio is a great person, and he really taught me a lot as a lawmaker. But I heard the sitting chief of police. There's a couple that are still around. And my friend Chief Francis Izaki, who lives down the road from me. I think that there's a lot of other facilities, and I think we'll honor our communities by going out with what matters the most, and that's putting it right back to our communities.
Understood. Somebody else on the line? No, we're good. Okay. Demi says charter schools should go into Chief Brody. And so
Which one?
Yeah, right. So let's talk about that real quick. I mean, is that something that you're going to focus on? Will you be showing up to these public hearings that would increase charter schools, or would you be there to say, no, we have enough charter schools?
No, I wouldn't object to other charter schools being, set up. My wife is, a retired teacher, computer science teacher. She taught at also the Guam Community College as an adjunct instructor, Dr. Lily Bergalio. Part of my platforms is the education, not only just arts and the music, right? To introduce that into the schools. Just like the successful charter school of my previously, Mike Phillips, she's Mount Carmel, right? I mean, I went there and supported, for the charter school for Mount Carmel, and I'm certainly going to support charter schools because there's a way, that they can advance education, especially critical stuff that our young generation have to get into, and that, whether it's tomorrow, the language of tomorrow, preservation of that culture, to everything from the arts and music, and I would like to see, just like what Senator Will Castro has done also, anything on technology too.
And would you be in favor of...
I'm an absolute proponent of okay, right now, they're capped at a certain amount of charter schools. Right. And I think we've got to give it more time. Okay. There's a bill that wants to expand 3 more. Now, if one drops of the current 7, then you may be able to look at one of these 3. But we need to just take care of the ones we do now, and I think the Public Audit Committee made a good point. They need to get their finances a little bit more stable. They have a cap in students. They have a capped amount of funds. But probably those schools are outperforming our regular public schools. And I think we're not paying attention to that as much. There's some great things happening in our charter schools. I love BTAS and what they're doing in terms of the trades. I'm a big proponent of the Corral Academy Charter School, Sinai, Guinea, and that whole thing is such a fantastic group of people. But today, we need to look at how they effectively do those charter schools. I mean, they're saying, well, we're ready. Well, I think there's
are you able to measure success yet?
No, we are. Okay. But remember, what you're asking for is, I know you need to superintendent. Let's have all of our schools charter schools. But they'll take advantage of a certain point in time with the current Trump administration. That doesn't answer the questions of what happens to charter schools. My kids wasn't on Carmel. All 5 of my kids. And my kiddos, Uncle Bill, San Mental, who's trying to be the principal, and they do get her and beat everybody up down their heads when they get in trouble down there. But there's some great things happening, and school choice really is the way to go. I think it's a great thing, especially if you have a chance to do it.
Understood. Well, we don't have a lot of time left, and the phone lines are open, right? So I'm just we'll close the line because I just want to give you the opportunity now to just share anything else that is very important for our audience to know before they go and vote on August 1st, or even sooner, right? Because I believe it's July 7th. June. It's July 7th, right? It's early voting, right? And so just wanted to give you the opportunity. Is there anything else that you wanted to focus on? Again, I don't want to assume that you're just going to go after public safety here.
Well, it does relate to public safety, but it also relates to jobs too, because in having a purpose, which, is very valuable. One of the things that I was known for when I was the chief of police during Governor Caro's administration is he looked at all these officers that were at the Japanese festival, and he goes, man, there's so many full-time officers. How much is this overtime costing? And I said, these are all reserve officers, Governor. 22 of them at the Japanese festival keeping the peace. And the reserve program for the Guam Police Department needs to be improved, right? And other law enforcement agencies. Port Police doesn't have a reserve program. The Customs doesn't have a reserve program. But the airport police has corrections. I have some reserves that I have, and I'm also thinking of parole, for aggressive community supervision of individuals on parole, a parole reserve program. think volunteering and policing, former Senator Frank Igazaki had the CAPE program during the Camacho administration, right? But we took it a step further to add on that we need a lot of, manpower, right, in recruitment. So whenever a senator is at a budget hearing in charge of public safety oversight, rather than just to ask the question, what's your manpower state, your food, I want to be able to ask, what's your reserve strength like? That happens in the Department of Defense. They ask those generals, how's your manpower strength full-time, and how's your guard and reserve and your full-time auxiliary? And that way, recruitment is being done with all four engines, all cylinders are running, to get the manpower there.
Understood. And where are you at on the ballot? Obviously on the Democrat
I'm number
side.
8.
Number 8?
I'm the ask for the vote, everyone.
And people can find you on Facebook, Instagram.
I don't have my Facebook social media they can find.
Okay, understood. Senator Shaw?
Well, I think, first off, thank you, Pauly, for the chance to be on the wave, and I do listen every day, so I enjoy your show, and thank you for the public service that you have. I will say this, that I remain committed to common sense public policy as a policymaker, whether it's economic development, elderly services, and public safety. Those mean a lot to me, and it's a very personal thing for me. Taking my 10 years of government service, obviously, across now 3 branches of government. I was a small business owner. I totally understand the plight of our private sector, because without the private sector, we do not have a public sector. I've listened and responded to the call, and I'm number 5 on the ballot. I only ask the people of Guam if they can do a couple of things for me. First off, is to go register to vote. You can check out gec.guam.gov to make sure you register to vote. Plan accordingly, and then in fact vote. I think Pauly and all of the listeners out there can attest that I think people might have a little bit of apathy, but this is a very important election. The primary election is on August 1st. The polls will open at 7 a.m., but the biggest one is coming up July 7th. 10 to 6. I hope that folks will be more involved. I think you're going to see a lot more mobilization across our community. But I hope you'll of course, raise the flag in the vote, then vote number 5, Chamber Matangao on the Republican side of the ballot.
Thank you both for coming in. I really appreciate this. And so we'll stay in touch as we get closer to the primary, but most definitely in the general. And I look forward to seeing both of you later on talking about some of the policies you plan on implementing if you were elected. And so that will probably happen as we get closer to November.
Thank you for the plug, the shameless plug, because I don't want to take it for granted, Pauly. So, thank you for advancing me.
I'm for everybody. I hope everybody moves on, right? You only have to be 3 people? You better.
I'm not taking it for granted, Pauly.
We'll take the break. Again, thanks to Senator Sean for coming in, and also Chief Frank Bedalia. Really appreciate the opportunity, and I know our audience does as well. We'll end this stream, and we'll start another one, so that way you can find this stream a lot faster and watch it in its entirety if you missed any of it. And tell your friends, too. KUMFM in Jeddah, Guam. We'll take you.